Tonight, the conversation continues around a proposal that could change how the city of Fort Smith is run. We first told you about this proposed change last month. 5 News reporter Taylor Howard was at a town hall meeting this evening where residents learned more and had the chance to weigh in.
There was a town hall meeting tonight here in Fort Smith about a proposal that could change the way the city runs, moving from a city administrative system to a mayoral-led system. We'll hear from residents about how they feel about the possible change.
For Fort Smith to succeed in the future, that was the whole purpose of this meeting, is to make people aware of this petition to make it a mayor-run city instead of the way it's run right now.
Since 1967, Fort Smith has operated under a city administrative system where a hired city administrator handles day-to-day operations rather than the elected mayor. Mayoral candidate Shane McKinney says that structure is slowing down economic growth.
The city has been costing me money in trying to start business. It's been costing your families money.
Others who support the current system aren't so sure.
None of the candidates are qualified to run a $300 million business with 1,000 employees.
Supporters of a mayor-led system are now working to get the issue in front of voters. They're asking residents to sign a petition which would put the question of changing the city's form of government on the November ballot. McKinney points out to cities like Fayetteville and Siloam Springs where mayor-led systems are in place. For others like Mike Rich, his reasoning for supporting the change is simple.
Returning to mayor, simply because it's a change, it's a change. Maybe we need change.
So far, about 500 people have signed these petitions, and they need 2,000 in order for it to get on the ballot in November. In Fort Smith, covering news where you live, Taylor Howard, 5 News.
Thank you, Taylor. And a new candidate has joined the Fort Smith mayor's race. Ward 3 Director Lee Kemp has announced his campaign. He joins fellow Fort Smith board member Christina Katsavis alongside the 3 other candidates, Shane McKinney, Sarah Harrison, and Dan Williams. Current Mayor George McGill is not seeking re-election this November. The Arkansas Supreme Court denied an appeal from Zach Hawley, the Benton County man facing the death penalty for the murder of 6-year-old Jersey Bridgman. The court upheld the Benton County Circuit Court's denial of post-conviction relief. Hawley's been trying to overturn his conviction for more than a decade. During this appeal, his attorney argued 2 facts were never presented during the original trial that he says would have changed the outcome. The Supreme Court disagreed and denied Hawley's appeal. Benton County Prosecutor Brian Sexton told us today the appeal will likely move to the federal level. The Benton County Sheriff's Office is looking for any tips after multiple motorhomes were set on fire near Beaver Lake. The Sheriff's Office says several RVs were set on fire Tuesday at a lot near Beaver Shores Road and Highway 12. The Sheriff's Office says anyone who has any information on this is urged to contact the detective on the case. Her information can be found on our website, 5newsonline.com. Well, at the Arkansas State Capitol, lawmakers are a step closer to sending another tax break your way. A legislative panel advanced an increase on the homestead tax credit. The 26-year-old property tax break gives homeowners a credit for their local property taxes of up to $600. The House passed a resolution toward raising that up to $675. Representative Bart Schultz calls it an easy way to help taxpayers keep more of their money.
I, like a lot of other people in Arkansas, I've seen a time where $75 would have been tremendous to me. And so, yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you look at it, the overarching thing here, it's a lot of money to our state, and every dollar counts.
The resolution needed approval from 2/3 of the legislature to advance during the fiscal session. Sponsors expect to have a bill set for votes as soon as next week. Meanwhile, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt has signed off on next year's budget, with most of the funding of the $12 billion budget going toward education and health care. Both the Oklahoma House and Senate passed the overall budget this week. It will go into effect on July 1st. Our affiliate in Oklahoma City reports there are still some things that need to be finalized before the legislative session ends. Bills involving adding 7 more days to the school year, a ban on cell phones in classrooms, and Medicaid expansion are currently passing through the chambers. Well, this month marks 30 years since an F3 tornado killed 2 children in Fort Smith and continued into parts of Van Buren. 5 News This Morning anchor Joe Ellison gives us a sneak peek into the preservation of that dark history and part of a story you'll see exclusively tomorrow night on 5 News Plus.
This is an actual picture of the tornado?
Yes.
It says 4/21/96 at 11:16 p.m.
Over the years, curators at the Fort Smith Museum of History started preserving articles and artifacts from the 1996 tornado that ripped right through the heart of the city.
It becomes the overarching support of the story.
They've archived maps showing the EF-3's exact path from Fort Smith into Van Buren, and they've kept pieces of debris.
This is a piece that was picked up. There's a necklace very embedded.
Unfortunately, downtown Fort Smith has seen this kind of destruction well before 1996.
The two most deadly and devastating tornadoes to Fort Smith have taken place about 100 years apart. The 1898 tornado had a significant loss of life with it.
The paths were similar from Fort Smith into Van Buren. Maps of both are stored at the museum. The museum is a keeper of artifacts attached to memories.
In World War I, there was a young man, his name was Vic Ellig. He was a soldier from Fort Smith who went to France to fight in World War I. Well, shortly before he left, he had written his name, it was wet cement. Well, he goes to France and he's the first Fort Smithian to be killed in action. And somebody had the foresight to go find that piece of concrete and pull it up. And so we actually have it on display in the museum downstairs. If you don't preserve the history, those stories get forgotten.
Join Darren, Joe, and Scott tomorrow night at 6:30 on 5 News Plus for a 5 News original, Sunday's Fury, 30 Years Later. An encore presentation airs at 10:30 Sunday night right here on Channel 5.